I started my company, my medical company in Panama City, Florida, where I met a physician named Osama Rafai. Uh, Dr. Rafai had grown up in Syria, in fact, grown up in Aleppo. And this was in the 2007, 2008 time frame. And I got to know Dr. Rafai, and then he convinced me that I should join the Syrian Medical Society and go back to Syria to teach physicians in the country. So in the early part of 2011, I began to prep some lectures to do and to deliver in Aleppo, Syria. I was excited to go. Dr. Rafai had shared with me the amazing beauty of that city, the city of Aleppo, where Christians and Muslims work together in peace. He described it, citing examples where the Muslim families would babysit the children of Christians while the Christians did Christian festivals and services, and vice versa. It was an unbelievable city. A friend calls me a few weeks into the summer and says, "Are you still going to Syria?" And I'm like, "Well, I think so." And of course, it continued to deteriorate, and I wound up not getting to go. But this war comes and destroys the beauty of that city, crushes the people of that country, spawns the amazing, unbelievable, horrific ISIS caliphate that President Trump and the United States military so, crushed, and has created this unbelievable situation where Turkey and the Kurds and Russia and the Syrian government are now in this milieu, and it is probably the hardest foreign policy challenge of the United States. It's a 9.9 out of 10. Clearly, this guy Assad is a butcher, and he is following in the line. If you go and study what happened in Hama, Syria years ago, he's following in the footsteps of his father. The apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. But just a few quick questions. Most of my questions have already been asked by committee members. I just wondered, Mr. Reverend, if you could talk a little bit about Russia's long game, what their footprint is today, and what their long game is there, and what our plans are to thwart what they're doing.
Thank you, Congressman. The Russians have been there for a long time. They've had a military presence there going back, into the Cold War. So it's half a century that the Russians have had a naval base there. That they've had a very close relationship with the Syrian military. What we would like to see is that all the forces that were not there before 2011 ultimately go home. And that there's a political solution that makes it so that they have no rationale to be there. I mean, that's us included. As far as what the Russians are doing there, to be honest with you, I think the Russians now, since 2016, have been trying to enable Assad to win a military victory that he can't win, and that they can't sort of lift him up and carry him over the finish line. There's the Syrian regime military is too hollow. That regime is too brittle and weak, and so what is their long-term game? It's not clear to me that there is a viable one because of the path that they've been on. The path they've been on for the last 4 or 5 years has hit a dead end or a cul-de-sac, and there's nowhere for it to go. So to be honest with you, I think, honestly, it's time for a reality check for all the allies of Assad to realize that there can only be a political solution to this conflict. They're not going to get their military reconquista.
Thank you for that, and I'm essentially out of time. Chairman, I yield back, and thank you, Mr. Rayburn, for your comment.